My name is Frida Gibbs, aka Cheetah, billed as the most dangerous woman in the world. I'm the world's first African-American female world kickboxing champion, standing alongside of Bruce Lee and Van Damme. I grew up in Chester, Pennsylvania. It's a small suburban area outside of Philadelphia. Actually, it's nothing. It's like 5 miles long, and it's really nothing but a bunch of projects. You know, we were some happily poor kids, and we didn't know that we were poor, but we were always happy because we were always playing games. You know, we were always outdoors playing double Dutch or scotch or different things like that. But like I said, we were poor, but we were some happily poor kids.
Simple times.
Yeah, exactly.
When did bullying begin for you, and how did it shape your sense of self at the time?
That's interesting that you asked. Bullying, wow. I was probably like 8 years old. The bullying actually started at home with my mother's brothers. You know, my mother was 18 when she had me, so at the time she was living with her mother, and she had about 8 brothers at the time. And whenever I was the only girl, the only niece, the first one, but whenever it was dinner time, I was always sitting at a table with a bunch of guys. And where the bullying started is they tapped me on my shoulder. I looked that way. Somebody take my food. They tap me on my shoulder. I look that way. They take my food. I turn back, and I didn't have any food left. So I used to go home, go to bed, you know, with my stomach growling because I didn't eat anything. So that's where the bullying started. And I'm gonna tell you something. What occurred? My mother, she heard my stomach growling. And she's like, I thought you ate, and I told her. She said, well, you know what? You got a fork and you got a knife. Use your fork whenever they put their hand on your plate, you know, and that's what I eventually had to do. And once I started, you know, making contact with my uncles and them, you know, and then eventually I was able to eat a full course meal and go to bed without my stomach growling. True story.
Wow, what did that teach you about the power of fighting back, not with anger, but with purpose?
Yeah, it taught me that anything's possible as long as you're coachable, because I had to be coachable from my mother in order to learn that I had a fork and a knife that was able to protect me and to help me to have a full meal. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. So you got to be coachable. That's the most important thing, and I was at that time.
And I think that kind of leads into my next question, which was, how did you get into martial arts and kickboxing?
Being bullied. I don't know what it was. I have no idea, Molly, what it was. I used to ask the kids, do I have this invisible sign on my back that says bully me? You know what I mean? Because it was just really hilarious, because it seemed like no matter where I went, whatever school I attended, someone always bullied me. And I just couldn't figure it out. Like, do I have this, and do I look like the type to be bullied? But where it all started was, I'll never forget, I was in 5th grade, okay? And I did the kids a favor by doing their homework. Don't do kids a favor by doing their homework, because then they're going to demand it the next 2, 3, or 4, or 5 times. And really, the bullying really became intense. I mean, to the point where I was able to elude them for a year or so, but it got to the point where they were catching on. And I'll never forget this one day we were on a school bus, and they told me that they're going to get me. So what happened was, all of them, the bus driver stopped at our stop, and everybody on the bus got off the bus. I was the only one on the bus with the bus driver. And I said to the bus driver, can you take me to the next stop? She said, no. I said, but they're going to beat me up. She said, no, they're not. She said, this is what I want you to do. That's what the bus driver said to me. She said, I want you to walk to the back of the bus, and I want you to raise the emergency door, unlock it. Then I want you to walk back to the front of the bus where I am. I said, okay. She said, when I count to 3, I want you to run through the back of that door as fast as you can and bust it open and run us home as fast as you can. I said, okay. She said, no, I mean run us home as fast as you can. Don't look back. I said, okay. So what I did, she said, you ready? I said, yes. So I walked to the back of the bus, and I unlocked the lock. And when I walked to the back of the bus, everybody outside of the bus walked to the back of the bus. It was crazy. She said, now come to the front of the bus. So I came back to the front of the bus. And all the kids out there came back to the front of the bus. And she said, now step down as if you're ready to walk out. So I stepped down, and when I stepped down, all of them came like crabs to the front. She said, now run. I took off running out the back door. Home. Wilma Rudolph couldn't touch me. I kid you not. I was going, home. I bust out the back door. I had a head start on them. Head start. I was going, whoa. I'll never forget. Snot was hanging from my nose. It was swinging around the corner there. That's how fast I was going. Then finally, eventually, I made it to my mom's home, and the door was open because she was expecting me. And I busted the screen door, opened it. I slammed the screen door. I slammed the door. I had my back up against the door, and when I bust through, the cars all flew off the table. And my mom was like, girl, what the hell wrong with you? Busting through my door like a black superwoman. You done lost your damn mind? That's what my mom said. But I didn't care because I felt safe. That makes sense? Then eventually what happened, my mom heard a lot of jibber jabber outside. I didn't want her to go outside. And when she opened the door, she saw the whole school bus in our yard. And she went out there, she was like, what the hell is going on out here? You know, we come to beat Freddie up. My mother said, not all y'all. You know, not all of you. Now which one here to beat her up? You know, 3 girls raised their hand. My mom said, what's your mother's name? She said, Fanny Lou. My mom said, I know your mother figures. She said, what's your mother's name? What's your mother's name? My mom said, which one of y'all the baddest one? And Gilda raised her hand. My mother said, well, then Freddie gonna fight her then. She's not gonna fight all 3 of y'all. So my mom called me outside. I was terrified. You gonna beat her? You gonna beat her tonight, or I'm gonna beat your. Now you got a choice to get 1 whooping or 2. I was terrified. You know what I mean? I was terrified. And she gave me the broom. And she pushed me out there. Dear God. Only thing I remember, I don't even remember fighting. I'm being honest, I don't even remember fighting. But what I do remember is that, you know, we fought. I remember there were bruises on both of us. I remember me giving my mom back half the broom, and I recall not getting my ass whooped. That makes sense? So the fact that I didn't get my ass whooped said I did something right somewhere. I didn't feel safe at all because I didn't want to go back to that school. And I demanded that they transfer me to another school. This is where the intervention came in, and it really made a positive impact on my life. And that's when I told you I was at my grandma's. I went to give her a hug. She contacted my Uncle Billy, and then it was intervention time. He couldn't come see me that weekend, but when it came that following Monday, I'll never forget that he came up to the projects, and you know, he wanted to connect with me, and he said, you know, I really looked up to him. You know, I really always looked up to him because he's just like so cool. He's like the black Bruce Lee. He was just fly, you know. And, you know, he's real hippie-like, but make a long story short, I'll never forget him putting his hand on my shoulder, and we were walking. He said, I want to talk to you. He said, so I heard that you don't want to go to school anymore. You know, and I explained to him, and he said that I heard that people were bullying you, and I explained to him, and he said, well, you know, you can't continue to run all your life, Fredia, you know. He said there's going to come a time in life where you're going to have to learn how to stand firm. You're going to have to learn how to fight with your mind, you know? He was like, you're going to have to learn confidence. And I was like, what's confidence? You know, because I'd never heard that word before. And he said, confidence is knowing that you have no doubt in the abilities and the gift that God has blessed you with. Knowing who you are. Do you understand? I said, yeah, I understand. You know, so anyway, he said, so we want you to learn martial arts. I said, no, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. He said, this is not about fighting. This is about us rebuilding your self-confidence and us rebuilding your self-esteem. It's not about fighting. You dig? And then from there, I went to class, you know, and once I was able to identify confidence and self-esteem and be amongst the major martial artists like Master Barry and all these bad black martial arts, these guys were dangerous. Quiet Storm. It just sparring with them took me to a whole new level. You know, that's how I got into kickboxing. That's how my confidence grew. My confidence grew to a level that I'm blown away. I have a 6-foot bronze statue. I don't think it has registered yet, but I have a 6-foot bronze statue that is the world's first female kickboxing statue on the planet. I don't even think that even has processed yet. You know what I mean? You feel what I'm saying? That's pretty deep, isn't it? Not many people have a 6-foot bronze statue, right?